The opinions expressed by the host and guests in this show are not necessarily the views of Children's Health Defense.
Good morning, CHD. We're live here at CHD TV on Monday, the 9th of February 2026. In a moment, you're going to be listening to David Wolfe and Ray Flores. But for now, we need an update from our science department. And here's Karl Jablonowski, our senior research scientist, to update us. Good morning, Karl.
Good morning, Polly.
Right, well, let's start off with the religious exemptions in New Jersey. They're coming for your religious exemptions in New Jersey is the headline. Here's this Anne Rosen, who we've known for some time. Do talk us through this, please, Karl.
Yeah, so Anne Rosen put together a fabulous Substack on religious exemptions, and she clearly points out that it is the stance of the AAP, the American Academy of Pediatrics, to deny all non-medical exemptions. And she has a clip of a video from the New Jersey chapter where Dr. Senemo is talking us through. Do we have that clip?
Yeah, let's play it.
You know, this is what we need to really address. California did a great job by removing a lot of the philosophical exemptions. Really, there are multiple data streams, which we could certainly talk about, that if you increase the barriers or the burden of getting an exemption, you will increase vaccination rates. And that's something that I think as a nation and as a state, we're going to have to start talking about.
So ultimately, so what if one doctor says that if you increase the barriers or the burden of getting an exemption, you increase the vaccination rates? One doctor who doesn't believe you have religious, philosophical, or personal control over your own body. There are about 200 medical schools in the country. They churn out 25,000 medical students a year to feed our population of 1 million practicing physicians in this country. But Dr. Senemo is not just one in a million. He's a professor at Rutgers Medical School in pediatrics. What's, in my opinion, worse, he's the director of the residency program, which after you finish your 4-year medical degree, you go into a residency program to learn how to actually be a doctor. He is greatly influential of medical minds of the future. Now, bodily autonomy is a basic unit of liberty. The Constitution doesn't give it to us. The Constitution derives its authority from the people because the people believe themselves to be free. Without that basic unit of liberty, we couldn't have band together to write "We the People." So Dr. Senemo and the Un-American Academy of Pediatrics have very scary ideas around your freedoms. They may not be the ones who are actually putting something dangerous into your body, but they are the ones who are telling you that you can't say no. Now, it fits with a really broad, larger campaign to stamp out what's called vaccine hesitancy at all costs. Now, vaccine hesitancy is an engineered term in so much as everyone should be vaccinated, and then being hesitant is a stuttering towards that right action, which I don't think really captures people who are risk aware. I am hesitant to walk on a frozen lake. I'm not hesitant to go swimming in molten lava. There's no hesitation in my voice when I say we have never made a safe vaccine. In 2019, the World Health Organization put together a top 10 list of threats to global health. And while gain-of-function research was cooking up COVID in a lab under inadequate biosafety level, gain-of-function didn't make that list, but vaccine hesitancy was number 8 on that list. So a few weeks ago, a Japanese group published on a preprint that was identifying pockets of hesitancy and arguing for the focus of tailored strategies and risk communication approaches for strengthening preparedness for future pandemics. That is a way of saying the propaganda that we used isn't working so well anymore, so we need more propaganda. And I don't use the word propaganda lightly. If the aim was transparency, the conclusion would be more transparency. That's not the aim. The aim is vaccine uptake. And so what this paper is setting us up for is answering what stories do we need to spin and how best to manipulate the public to maximize vaccine uptake. Now, this paper ran the numbers for pre-COVID and post-COVID vaccine hesitancy, and pre-COVID was about 11%, and post-COVID was about 47%. So their measure of vaccine hesitancy quadrupled because before and after the pandemic. Astounding, there were over 11,000 people who responded to an adverse reaction question. 8% said no, meaning there were 92% of the population that answered that question that had an adverse reaction that they associated with the vaccine. 23% had a strong adverse reaction. Now, when framing this study, the authors first had to convince themselves that they were right and they were on the side of the informed. So they strung together 20 questions to assess people's knowledge of infectious disease. And the more you got right, the more likely you were to be vaccinated in the next pandemic. Except they weren't really questions. They were statements. They would pose a statement and follow it with, I knew that, or I did not know that. Absolutely every child I have ever known has gone through a I knew that phase and would be seen as an expert of infectious disease knowledge by this survey. It was practically ridiculous. They also wanted to associate conspiracy theory believers with those people who would be least likely to be vaccinated in a future pandemic. And so they had 3 questions to assess your COVID-19 conspiracy beliefs. Large pharmaceutical companies created COVID-19 in order to profit from vaccines. COVID-19 was created to force all people to get vaccinated. They were trying to carry out mass sterilization using this vaccine. The more you answered yes, the least likely you were to be vaccinated in a future pandemic. And I'm not a survey scientist, but all 3 of those questions are laden with intent. And they didn't ask the question that's buried in there, was COVID-19 created? Which the US population is still awfully confused about because we were lied to by trusted sources. There's another section for broader vaccine misinformation beliefs. They have 7 questions. People are being deceived about vaccine safety. Data is often fabricated. People are being deceived about vaccine efficacy. The data is often fabricated. Childhood vaccination is harmful, and that fact is being concealed. Pharmaceutical companies are hiding the dangers of vaccines. The government is trying to hide a link between vaccines and autism. And I have to say, this is our abject reality. I have sat through several ACIP meetings, and at least the ones before the 2025 ACIP meetings, 6 of those 7 were clearly visible in absolutely every ACIP meeting, with the exception of vaccines and autism, because they weren't talking about it. They had already codified it in their Vaccines Do Not Cause Autism CDC webpage, which is still up, but now reads, "There is no evidence to support this claim." Now, this paper that is advocating for risk communication has key measures of 8 theoretical pandemics. They relay the fatality rate of the pandemic and how long the vaccine will be effective for. Do you want the vaccine? What's missing? The risk communication paper is not mentioning any risk of an adverse reaction to the vaccine, for which 92% of the respondents have already said they have had one. It's utterly crazy. What turns crazy into very worrisome is the easiest modifiable factor that would influence vaccine uptake that was found in this paper was fear. Those who had very low fear of COVID-19 were least likely to be willing to be vaccinated in a future pandemic. This is the study that you need to do before you wage psychological warfare on the population. And it was paid for by the Japanese Ministry of Health. Getting to our next topic of why you would be vaccine hesitant about a vaccine. On the other side of the world, in the United Kingdom, 2 researchers from Oxford requested cardiovascular dysfunction data from the UK Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency. And they received reports of 48,000 associated with AstraZeneca. Now, after the researchers published it on a Substack, that agency wanted to cut it back down by a factor of 4, down to 13,000. And without minimizing the suffering of the 35,000 people that agency wants to delete, the absolute number is not what's damning about this data. It's the distribution in time. In February, March, and April of 2023, there were 151 events. Those same 3 months in 2021, right after the AstraZeneca rollout, there were a total of 32,374. That is an astounding 21,440% increase in cardiac disorders. Now, astounding, yes. If you weren't paying attention, you'd be awfully surprised. I unfortunately was not surprised. Dr. Hooker and Dr. Baker and I had just written a preprint, which is now in peer review, about a Nature article that came out espousing the safety of COVID vaccines in a 46 million person study in England. And while the media and the reviewers and the journal just lapped it up without questioning how does one vaccine compare to another, we picked this paper apart in 4 other papers, and what we found was death and disease, cardiac disease, in the AstraZeneca compared to Pfizer. And Pfizer is by no means a model of pharmaceutical safety. Now, the corruption runs wide and it runs deep, and it's not going anywhere unless we root it out. This research group has entangled and snared in a lie the top educational institutions of the world, and the British Heart Foundation, and the Wellcome Trust, and an Order of the British Empire awarded scientist, Kathy Sudlow. They're all authors on a paper that states, quote, "This England-wide study offers reassurance regarding the cardiovascular safety of COVID-19 vaccines," where in fact it is a veritable cardiovascular catastrophe. Cardiovascular safety was, after all, a story we all wanted to hear, except the injured, the gaslit, and all the families minus one. But cardiovascular safety is a fairy tale demonstrating that the Japanese study misinformation belief is our abject reality. People are being deceived about vaccine safety.
Carl, that was just brilliant update on everything. It's really interesting to me that we're talking about AstraZeneca now, because during the whole pandemic-y time, it was all mRNA. And am I correct that Johnson Johnson, which is, I presume, the US equivalent, if you like, it was very similar to AstraZeneca, also taken off the market, but we don't hear enough about it. And yet, obviously, I've got a lot of family and people in England who, a lot of them took the AstraZeneca, and we're not just seeing cardiac issues, Carl, like so much cancer, so much turbo cancer, so many issues from that. So why was AstraZeneca Johnson? Why don't we hear more about? And Johnson Johnson, we never hear about.
So I think the reason we don't hear about Johnson & Johnson in the United States is not a whole lot of people took it relative to how many people took the Pfizer and Moderna mRNA vaccine. I do think that is a major disservice, as the Johnson & Johnson was seen as a one shot. You didn't have to come back in a certain time period to get another shot. And so that vaccine was the vaccine of choice of people who are least likely to have a second checkup. And that is usually, of a social demographic that we should really be paying attention to, because their health is certainly slipping through the cracks. Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca were both built on an adenovirus vaccine. So they were somewhat similar. And AstraZeneca has indeed been studied for links to cancer. The Italian study that was in just east of Rome, in a province on the sea, had something like a 300,000 person study that they tracked, and the cancer rates were through the roof, including rare blood cancers had gone up by about 400%.
Yeah, Carl, this is a question you may not be able to answer, but I actually was speaking over the weekend to a young, 20-year-old girl in England, and she took AstraZeneca and various others, but so it's like 4 years on, and now she's got heart issues. Could that be 4 years on, had nothing before that, something that the vaccine could have caused that later after?
Unfortunately, since it's never been studied for safety, ultimately, yes, it could be. The data that we got from the agency that those two researchers got did show cardiac dysfunction was highly focused near the time of the vaccine rollout, but it did tail off, which means there is still damage and injury to be had from that vaccine.
And when you go to the VAERS site or whatever they're using these days to track these vaccine reactions, they don't ever go back and count. So say I put in, like, I took Pfizer and, I had a stroke. But then if I died, does anyone go back and fill in actually, what she died from that? So do we ever have the real catastrophe of injury and death from these shots?
Oh, no. VAERS is, at best, you get a quick snapshot of, sometimes it's right when the report was filed. And we've seen a lot of reports where people would like to do a follow-up to that report where they do show, the severity increased or the person died, and those updates are not being seen on the VAERS system. VAERS did do an overhaul not too long ago, so it's possible that some things have made it in, but I doubt, considering the record keeping, that VAERS would really reveal much in that space.
And yet, Carl, they are still recommend. I mean, I know that the CDC don't recommend, but we still hear of even 6-month-old babies getting the COVID shots now, today, as we speak.
Yeah, I know, and I don't know what to say about that. They were never safety tested. They are not safe.
Carl, thank you for your update. Please come back as soon as you've got any more news from the science department at Children's Health. Thank you for all you're doing and your team there. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, now we are going to go to Ray Flores, who is interviewing David Wolfe. Avocado Wolfe is known. He's been around for a long time, so enjoy this interview.
Good morning, CHD. This is Ray Flores, Senior Outside Counsel for Children's Health Defense. As many of you may know, I started my first career in the natural foods business in the 1980s. It lasted more than 30 years. But by far the most exciting development was the raw foods movement when David Wolfe exploded on the scene. His health and personal development book, The Sun Food Diet Success System, encapsulated the times. In the first decade of the new millennium, David was the undisputed king of the movement. The revelation that health is wealth, today is the best day ever, the power of raw healing superfoods to bring on pure, vibrant health. And I said to him decades ago that I thought he was the most powerful of all the health gurus because he incorporates the power of spirit with diet. David led a sweat lodge I participated in, and I can assure you he's superhuman. Well, nearly everyone I admired from the natural foods world showed me that they were nothing but hypochondriacs who gobbled up COVID-19 propaganda. David was the only guiding light. His position during the pandemic and his ex-posts today show me that his compass still points to true north. Throughout the years, he shared the world's most sacred secrets. With all the focus on MAHA and the new upside-down food pyramid, I wanted to give our audience a fresh perspective to enlighten us on his point of view. It is my honor to bring on David Wolfe. David, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for that incredible intro. That was epic. All those years ago, that was, I did explode onto the scene and eventually led me to this sacred ground where I'm at right now here in Hawaii, where I'm looking out at 20-year-old coconut trees that I planted from sprouts, so all those things led to wonderful explosions in that reconnection with the land, with the earth, with planting, with trees, with the natural world, and with natural remedies for everything. We've been inundated with the pharmaceutical cure-all crap, which we obviously know has been a total disaster. And so we're still plugging away out here in the jungle, showing people how they can heal themselves and have the best day ever.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So what's on your mind today? What are you thinking is going on?
Well, I'm always in the thick of the fight. And what was interesting, I think, out of this latest Epstein drop is that Bill Gates and Epstein had been talking about preparing for pandemics. Obviously, they don't just prepare; they plan the pandemic, and the whole thing was obviously a plandemic. And so that was interesting. It just proves culpability. And my personal feeling about this has kind of been on my mind this morning, and I'm just curious with the audience what you guys think too. Like, we can't ever stop this unless there's consequences to these people. You know what I'm saying? Like, they need to be put on trial, like Nuremberg 2. And we need to put them on trial for crimes against humanity. I mean, they've killed millions. And so, in my personal opinion, the crimes will not stop unless there's consequences. But once there's consequences, I want public trials, and I want everybody to see what they've done. That's what I've been on to today. It's a little dark, but it's also kind of on the truth.
Yeah, I love it. I love it that you're saying it the way it is, unfiltered, as you've always been. I wanted to ask you what's your opinion of the MAHA movement.
Great question. I mean, I have so many people inside the MAHA movement, old friends of mine, Doctor Group, Liana, my friend Liana, Marla Maples, of course, and there's just so many people who are in there. Sayer G, of course, is always in there, and I just love that we've got the floor now. But I don't track it too closely because I'm kind of a grassroots guy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still at the grassroots level. Like, I just did an event in Los Angeles. We're just talking to kind of like still the everyday folks. Like, I just love that. I'm that kind of guy. And sure, I'll if those guys say, hey, come take our stage, sure, I'll go take the stage. But I'm always talking about the simplest things. And I'll tell you, Ray, since we first met, one of the great discoveries that I got onto is the power of charcoal for detox and cleansing. This is a toxic world we're in. It's defined by how toxic it is. Look around. I mean, we breathe in automobile exhaust every single day. We don't even think about it. The amount of indoor pollution, air pollution, outdoor air pollution, mold exposure, it's absolutely insane. Charcoal is a complete binder to all toxins that we know of, from recreational drugs to mycotoxins and everything in between. So that has become a major part of my life. That's a thing that I have in my diet every single day. I've got my little, let me get you my batch here. Here's my little batch for today. Bam, there's my little 3 charcoals I'm taking today.
Beautiful.
And that's a big one. So when I think about Maha, I love that they've inverted the pyramid. I love that they've, finally gotten onto the seed oil disaster. And that has caused, years ago, me and my original business partner, you remember us from the old days, we thought this is going to cause, this seed oil problem is going to cause a mental health crisis and a cardiovascular crisis. It's probably unmatched in the history of the world. What do you think? Is that what happened? Looks like what's happened.
Yeah, it sure feels like it. That's what they're on to right now, for sure.
And I, by the way, I love Children's Health Defense and have done a lot to promote Children's Health Defense over the years. I'm a lifelong anti-vaxxer to everybody listening. So both my parents were medical doctors. I grew up in it. When I was about 6 or 7, I got injected with some crap. I knew something bad had happened to me. I had enough wits about me that I knew that this had been a catastrophe, probably mercury poisoning or something like that. And so I would kick and scream, punch, anything to get out of it. And my parents just signed off on me the rest of my life. So when I first got on the internet, one of the first categories that we brought on the internet was basically the vaccine contamination and danger problem. There was category books that we sold on the internet, and the only other people that sold that were Amazon back in those days.
Wow. What a trip. I also was noticing in your book that you were inspired initially in the late 80s by Harvey and Marilyn Diamond, it seems. And that was my introduction. I credit them with, my, vitality to this day. And I really am grateful to the whole natural hygiene movement. But you just took it to, as you would say, a whole nother level.
we went berserk. I love Harvey and Marilyn Diamond. I became very good friends with Marilyn Diamond years later, and what a wonderful lady. And I loved what they put in that book, because that book, Fit for Life, actually was the first time I ever saw the whole concept of eat fruit to be happy, and the idea of a raw foodist was in that book. I had never seen that before until I read that book in the late 1980s. I was like, a raw foodist? What's that? I've been a vegetarian since 1990. I don't, I'm not a proselytizer of anything, but I will tell you that I'm glad to be on that track with what we're finding out is in the meat products in America and what they're putting in, namely the mRNA vaccines, which I'm sure you're intimately aware of what they're doing to the food supply.
Yeah, it's really scary. One of the concerns I had on the new food pyramid was the focus on animal protein. And I just wanted to make sure that somebody else got a word in edgewise besides me, that this may not be the best move. What do you think?
Thanks for that. Yeah, I'm a vegetarian, right? So I just gave my friend a huge avocado that I picked from one of my trees. I should go grab one over here, just show you the size of these guys over here. Let me just grab one. Let me just do this. You got to see this. This is great.
Okay.
Brief intrusion. This is a lemon in my yard, so you can see it's almost primordial. The aroma coming off this thing is amazing. It's like a primordial giant. It's got weight, so powerful. It's like Jurassic. And then look at these monster avocados we're eating over here. So wow. Still at it. Thank God avocados got thrown in there. Thank God olive oil got thrown in there. So I was glad to see that. But I mean, we're in a culture that swings wildly from extremes. So, people will swing all the way from one extreme thing, like let's just eat fruit only, and then all of a sudden let's just eat meat only. And it can get to a point where it causes problems with people's diet and nutrition, as we've seen, and that's kind of good. We're at, I think you probably agree with me, whatever this thing is that's coming to an end, right? Let's inject every kid with big pharma chemicals, with every kind of formaldehyde and aluminum and God knows how much toxic mercury to fix their immune system, which was never even broken. You know what I'm saying? Like, that system's dying. It won't last. So what I'm trying to get to is the beginning is near. We're at the beginning of a new growth, a new explosion. And in that, that's the raw foods comes in as part of that. This inversion of the old pyramid comes in as part of that. It's breaking up the old. So I'm thankful for that. But also we have to keep in mind that things are the way they are. For example, like salad, dairy products, superfoods, avocados, sprouts, fruit, all these things have their place in our life, and they have a role in our life. And sometimes people can get so full on the meat diet, they forget to even eat fruit, or they're scared to eat fruit. And I do want to just always put in a word that one is, you don't want to end up with scurvy. It has happened to keto people. I know they end up with scurvy. Think of how crazy that is. And then on top of that, we want to just eat food that makes us feel happy. I mean, look how happy I'm going to be feeling when I eat that for lunch today.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Isn't that a beauty? And this is crazy. I had to leave Hawaii for 9 days, and when I came back, I put this almost ripe avocado in the fridge. It lasted. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost perfect.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Is that a reed avocado, or what kind is it? Do you know?
It's reed style. So in California, you'd call those a reed avocado. I've got it, but it's really Guatemala highland is where this is prevalent. This kind of shape, so it's got more of a globe type of shape rather than the pear shape we're all familiar with. Mm-hmm. And I've got this tree in the front yard. Now, what I love about the way I've been growing trees, I've been growing avocado since 1978. So this whole thing, David Avocado Wolfe, it's not a joke. I'm really into growing avocados. And one of the things you want is I want to be able to go down there, and I want to be able to get the avocados and bring them up here. And then, they'll ripen up here in 5 days because they've been picked. But if I don't pick them, they stay on that tree for another month or two, and they're perfectly fine. And that's a characteristic I'm breeding for, right? So when I pick them, they ripen up quickly. But if I don't pick them, they stay on the tree.
That's wonderful. And a lot of the fruit, most of the fruit we buy in the stores has all been picked prematurely, right?
That's right. Exactly. So, we get animals in this forest that will come, sometimes the avocados, like, and there's an avocado on this tree over here that's really high up, and the animals go up there and they nibble it, and then they'll try to, they'll knock it down to the ground. I can't even get it. It's too high. My pickers can't even get to it. They bring it to the ground. So, but 9:30 at night, or 2 in the morning, I'll hear it hit the ground, and so I'll run out there the next morning, and boom, there's my fresh, pretty much ripe avocado ready to go. That is a gift and a privilege and a wonderful thing to have in your life. I will just say that, to have fresh food, because things that are in the supermarket have been picked too early. They've been gassed a lot of times. They've been artificially ripened. They've been refrigerated or frozen, and it's just not the same as when it's, as we say in Hawaii, from the tree right to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. It's beautiful. Yeah, when you think about all the GMOs and everything else, and all this other art of the appeal covering and everything else that they're doing, it's you got to be really careful. Even if it's organic bananas can be gassed, for example, right?
Yeah, I just saw a video of that yesterday, actually. A guy was showing that, hey, look, these are organic bananas, but look, they're gassing them. And he demonstrated that. So this is the thing. Unfortunately, the human race, this is why, I love what you're doing, which is you're bringing accountability, where the human race is not evolved enough to have a trustable government. We're not evolved enough to have trustable agencies. They have to be checked up on. They have to be they have to be brought in to account for mistakes or problems or theft or corruption or whatever. And it's an unfortunate state that we're in. Maybe one day, thousands of years in the future, will be that evolved. But until then, I recommend everybody at home, try growing stuff yourself. Try growing your own food. You may be good at things you never expected. I'm really good at growing avocados, but I became a really good tobacco grower. I mean, I'm an insane tobacco grower. I never would have expected that. I was like, Marlboro cigarettes? What do you mean? Like, I had no idea what tobacco was all about. But I have a green thumb for it, and I have a green thumb for trees, but I don't really have a green thumb for vegetables. Other people can have different skills, and you can barter. So I traded dinner last night for an avocado, one of my avocados.
Right, beautiful, beautiful. I just love everything you've done, and again, like I said, everybody from the natural foods world just showed me that they were only afraid to die. That's why they were buying all these supplements. None of them seem to be really into the core of what health really meant, but yet you have stuck to it all these years, and I applaud you for it, and it's just wonderful. finally to see somebody who's not only saying the correct words, but is saying it fearlessly, as you always did.
Right on. Thank you. I mean, when the pandemic was going down, and there were some dark moments there, as you remember, we thought this is it. Like, if we don't fight to win, we're going to die, and it's like, okay, well, that's okay. This is what we were put on the earth to do. I was told when I was very, very young about how corrupt the government was, what the real plans of the government was, where it was all heading. When I was just 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and coming from being a lifelong anti-vaxxer, and then to see this all coming together, I was like, this is my moment. Like, I better get out there, and we better stop this. And so I did things that were very intense, super intense. Including being arrested at the border on a border crossing at one point. That was nuts. I ended up getting all the cops in that particular border crossing ended up coming on my side. And by the end of it all, they carried my bags back out to my truck, and I drove off into the night because they were, the revelations that they had watching what they saw unfold. That's a longer story, but it's just something, that just like, it doesn't matter. Like, at some point our day will be done on the earth, and we better make our time here count. And that's how I've always lived every day. That's why it's the best day ever.
These are golden words, as always. David, how can our viewers go and see you in person? I know I've experienced it from the beginning. You're one of the greatest, maybe the best promotional person, because you're speaking from truth, and you're speaking it, from being in the moment. And I want everybody else to experience what it's like to meet you and see you address an audience. What can they do?
Thank you so much for that. Well, we are going to be doing a big conference. Remember, we used to do those conferences in California. We moved to Florida with the conferences. So we're doing them right outside of Orlando, March 27, 28, 29, 2026. It is going to be one heck of an event where basically it's called the David Avocado Wolfe Health and Rejuvenation Conference. You can always find that on my Twitter page. It's, my x.com/David Wolfe, DAVIDWOLFE. Or if you want to track me on Telegram, I'm at David Avocado Wolfe on Telegram. I've had a, really, really successful Telegram page over the years because back in April 2018, YouTube deleted me and wiped me out completely for no reason. No strikes, no warnings, nothing. They just cleaned out my 10 years of work. I was gone. That's also an interesting story because I found out later that it did is it inspired me to look at new platforms where I couldn't be deleted, and Telegram became a key platform. Obviously, when Elon Musk took over Twitter, things improved on that platform dramatically for us, no question about it. But anyway, it was an interesting incident way back when with the I got to a point where YouTube wiped me out. They cleaned out my account. I couldn't say what I wanted to say out there, so I had to pursue a different platform options and all that. But I was in Austin, Texas about 2022, and I was talking to a guy there. I was staying at his wife's place, and I started to ask him what he did, and he actually did. I'm trying to think of the best way to like kind of like bounty hunter stuff for the big tech companies. And I said, like, what companies? He's like, YouTube. And I'd like, what do you do? And he said, well, we would go in there, we deal with problematic accounts. I would be like, okay, what do you mean a problematic account? Eventually I found out he was the guy who deleted my account for YouTube. He didn't know. I mean, he didn't know what he was doing. And we became friends, actually. And I went to his wedding, actually. But I just thought that was so interesting how love wins in the end anyway, and that it turned out he was the guy. I mean, what is the odds of that?
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. 100%. The odds are 100% because it happened, right? Well, that's beautiful. Anything else you'd like to share with us before we sign off?
Okay, well, I just want to let everybody know that, your days are numbered, and the whole idea that I got from the personal development technology over the Jim Rohns of the world, the Tony Robinses of the world, the Napoleon Hills, the Earl Nightingales, the Les Browns, all these kind of characters, the Wayne Dyers of the world. What I got from that is that all you have is today. It's all about today. It's all about right now. And if right now is not going to be the best day ever, it's never going to arrive. Yesterday's gone forever. Tomorrow will never arrive. All we've got is the eternal moment right now. Let's make today the best day ever. And the way we amplify that, the way we add juice to it, the way we drive those synchronicities into our magical reality is by being healthy. And the healthier that you are, then that means your connection to the earth, your connection to each other, the love in your heart, your connection to the great, magic of living, the great excitement of living, the incredible moments of your life, the incredible moments that are possible. All of those things kind of come together with your diet and lifestyle to create the best day ever. That's how it goes down. So whatever that looks like in your reality, let's pour it on. Let's go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
And we're live. Okay, so tell us your name, please.
Chris Powers.
And you are?
Dawn Powers.
And it's about your children.
Yes.
And how many children have you got?
We have 5.
5.
And how old are they now?
Ranging from 22 to 13, almost 14. Yeah.
Okay, so 22 years ago when you were pregnant, did you guys have a conversation at all about vaccination?
Absolutely not.
No, we're just going with the flow.
Doing what they say to do.
Yeah.
All right, so talk us through your 5 children and their vaccination status and their health.
Okay, so when our oldest was about a year and a half, somewhere around there, she had night terrors. Where it's like a blood curdling scream, and she was like looking right past you, and didn't think anything of it. And then our second child was born in 2003. No complications at that time, but we started what's going on here? Is there trying to just educate ourselves. And we were pregnant with our third child, and just starting to have conversations that we should have had earlier on, But we didn't have him vaccinated.
The third child.
The third child, yeah.
Girl, and then boys. So the first 2 girls, we had them vaccinated, whatever the schedule was. We did because we didn't know any better. And I think we had conversations around 2004, and our son was born in 2005, and we had enough conversations before then that we didn't want to get him circumcised, and we didn't want to have any vaccines yet, or at least we're going to slow down and wait.
Does that include the vitamin K that they?
Yes.
Nothing.
Nothing.
So
No.
were you in hospital when you had him?
Yes.
And you
all 5 C-sections.
Yeah. All 5 C-sections.
Yeah.
But
Don't know how.
I don't know how that happened, but anyway, once he was born in May of 2005, we were basically off the vaccination train until our second daughter turned 2 and went in for a doctor's visit.
I wasn't feeling well, so I wasn't, in a fighting mode kind of a thing. So they pressured me into getting her 2-year-old vaccine. And I remember, maybe it's part of me not feeling well, but I could see myself holding her down for her to get the vaccine. And then a couple days later, we could smell metal in her poop, and it was sandy, and she wasn't eating sand, and she wasn't eating dirt, so it wasn't from that, And that's when we were like, whoa, what's going on here? And the screaming, it wasn't like, I know 2-year-old screams, and it wasn't that, So both of them were doing their screaming thing. So we're definitely, halting all that, and it's like going, this is crazy, let's stop this.
That would have been October 2005 was the last time we had any of the kids vaccinated. So after that, we put the brakes on all of it. And we didn't have, our son, who was born in 2005, no vaccine, somehow managed to get all the way through high school with no vaccines in California. So
he was under the waiver too.
Just barely got under the waiver in 7th grade, and then just coasted from there.
So number 4 was born 2008, no vaccines, and number 5 was born in 2010, and against our wishes, because I remember writing it on the admittance stuff.
We said no vax.
No vaccines, and they gave him one, and he developed a blood clot on his right arm, and it was just
like a hematoma.
Like it just appeared. It wasn't there when he was born.
Not born with it.
Was it on the day was it Hep B vaccination?
It was,
Yeah,
it was a Hep
the one at
B.
birth, yeah.
Okay, as well.
Probably, I'm sure. If they gave him the Hep B, they're going to give him,
And because you were having a cesarean, and what happened there? Someone took their eyes off the baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I don't
Yeah,
know if it was one
yeah.
of those times when I was catching some Z's,
Well, it could-
or they
yeah.
were taking them back, and we noticed on the chart, what the heck is this? We said no vaccines, including
We didn't think
that
we
one.
needed to worry about it because we put on there no vaccine.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like a given. It's not wasn't going to be done. So
Yeah.
at 3 months it was removed.
He had a little hematoma on his right arm,
Like a golf ball size.
but
And
he
that's the
wasn't.
last he had, but still.
And then none after that.
All right, so let's look at all your children today and look at the health of each one and the brain
So-
capacity, if you like, of each one, and talk us through them.
Thankfully, they're all functioning quote unquote normally.
So you don't see the difference between the vaccine and
Well, there is. So the first one, she had allergies to chemicals and scents and dairy. And then she also has, I don't know what you call it, but she does this fidgeting thing. And she still does it to this day. And then she now, we don't know if it was part of she only got one COVID shot. Not, something we were happy about,
Yeah,
but,
she was an adult. She had one.
But she's developed these rashes like all over her body, and a friend of hers said that he thought it was lupus. He's EMT guy, and he said you should check that out because I think you might have lupus. But there's like rashes like all over her body, and it's like I don't know it was a slow developing thing or what. So, and it's not. There's no history in our family, so. Yeah. So, we know that this is so minor compared to what other people have suffered, but we just feel like, these small things, people should know, that this happens, even, small scale to big scale.
And what about your boys' health?
They're all healthy and,
They're all healthy. They're rarely sick. I think maybe once or twice a year they get, a cold that puts them out for a few days, but
If that.
not the typical like constantly sick because they're going to school kind of the thing. They're healthy. I don't,
And so the first three went through high school. It was a charter school, but they went through high school, and then the other two got stopped at age 7, or no, sorry, seventh grade, where they kick them out at 7th grade. So yeah.
I think anything with our family that's, if it's not a health scare like other families might be dealing with, ours is like a emotional, educational scar because
They can't be in the
they had a
classroom.
great school to go to, and because of California and other things, they got kicked out because we said no to the shots, and the state says yes to the shots. So we're like, sorry, you have to go homeschool, and that's it.
So now what advice do you give to the young pregnant mum watching right now that's like, well, it's really hard because the doctors are bullies and I get scared and I'm scared my child will die of measles, RSV, whatever. And they're just like, maybe we used to be, I don't know.
Educate yourself.
Educate yourself, do your research. I mean, it's all out there. You just have to find it. You can't trust the doctor because he has MD in front of his name. You have to trust other sources and gather it all together and talk to other people that are maybe out of the box thinkers and see what they have to say. Because we did that somehow, grace of God, somehow we did that. There was no like big event in 2004 that like shook us up. It was a gradual progression into where we're at. But anyway, that's our
Anything else
jam.
you both want to add to this? Tell the people.
Just thank you for coming around again.
Yeah.
We've seen you a couple times in California, so thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for being
Bring
here.
the bus. Our daughter's name is on here somewhere, I think.
Or another one,
I
I'm not
think
sure.
it's
The
the
diff-
old
the
bus.
other
old
old
bus.
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 Yeah.
That's number 2 now.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for being brave and sitting here. It's important everyone tells their story, so we really appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
This and all CHD TV programming is made possible by generous support from viewers like you. Please consider making a contribution today to keep our programming going strong. Thank you.